Welcome to this YouTube video. In this video, I'm going to show you some tricks and tips of pivot tables. I did an earlier video on this same topic, but because people requested for another one, now I'm showing you more tricks and tips on how you can work with the pivot table. So let's get started. Tip number one is formatting all fields in the pivot table. And my pivot table is based on the data here, which has 4 columns, region, country, cells, and year for the different continents, countries in different continents of the world, selected countries in the different continents of the world. So our first tip here is how do you format the figures or values in this table? This table shows the continents here and the countries running across like so, as you can see. So let's do it here. Number formatting like so, commas, say okay. As you can see right here, the numbers are formatted, putting commas and decimal points. So you don't need to highlight everything, just go to one cell, right click, go to format cell, then select the kind of format that you want, and you'll be there. So our next tip here is on drilling down figures to extract the details of a certain figure. For example, I have Africa here with this amount, and I want to see what is the detail that makes up this amount for Africa. So the easy way to do it is to just double click on the figure like so. It creates a new sheet and gives you the details of what is making up that figure. And if I add right there, you see it is 744-1533, which is the same as what I have here, 744-1533. So if you want to drill down on any figure that you have in the pivot table, just double click on it and it will take you right to the details. Tip number 3, clone your pivot table in case you require a different view. So for example, this is my pivot table. Like what I mean by cloning, I can copy. I have already this view, but I want to get another view from my pivot table. So what do? I can just copy this pivot table and Control V, Control C, copy, and Control V will paste it right here. So when you do that, now when you do that, of course, you can click there and you see what now here it gives us the countries. So now I have a different view from what I have here. I may want to maintain this for a certain purpose. I'm trying to do a report and presenting different views of the same data. Now my first view here has the continents and the cells, but I want also to see under each of those continents the countries that make up the value for that continent. So I can copy and paste and produce another report. Just play around, change the columns, the rows that you're showing in that report, and you'll have a different view which you can use in the same report. So as you saw, I just right clicked and selected the column. I added a column and that was it. Tip number 4, remove unwanted headings. Right there. Now, right here, you can see we have row labels, this sum of cells. Row labels doesn't tell us much about the data that we have in these rows. So to do that, we need to remove this and bring it into a more meaningful heading. We remove unwanted headings. We go to, I think, design. Yes, we go to design, then report, layout. Let's try this one here. So you saw I went to design, then show in outline form. I clicked right there and the unwanted heading was removed to the correct heading of region. So that's how you can change the heading from row labels to or column labels. Just go to design, then go to report layout. You can choose any of these. I believe it can give you the right heading that you want. That is tip number 4. Tip number 5, let's see what we have. Turn off AutoFit when necessary. In some cases, what this does is, assuming I have my columns like so, and I refresh my data, just observe how the size of these columns is going to change. So if I refresh, you can see the size changed and they expanded. Now that is the auto fit functionality that comes by default with this pivot table. So in some cases, you may not want it because assuming you have data below it here and you don't want it to resize the width of the column. So what you do in that case, you would just right click and then turn it off. I think you right click and go to pivot. Is it pivot table options and layout, and right down here you see auto fit column width on update. In other words, when we refresh this data pivot table, it changes the column width. So if you do not want that one to happen, so what you have to do is to untick this autofill column. When I do that, then next time I refresh, I believe you can see right there my column width does not change. So for some purpose, you may not want your width to change on refreshing your pivot table. Tip number 6. Tip number 6 is about using slicers. Slicers help us to filter out data based on what we want to view. For example, here we have data showing Africa for the different years. So maybe we want for a particular country, or we want to see for a particular year filtered out. From here, we can use a slicer. And to get hold of the slicer, we need to go to the bar, Excel bar here, and insert, then move to the right. Over here, we shall see slicer. Click on that. It brings a dialog and gives you the different slicers that you can generate using this pivot table. So the options we have here, as you can see, we have region, we have country, sales, and year. So assuming I select maybe year and say okay down right here, it creates another dialog here which shows the year. Now this is my slicer, which is automatically linked to the pivot table. The moment I click on a particular year, the data for that year is going to display in the pivot table. So let's test it out by when I click on 2019, right here you can see 2019 only is what is displayed on this pivot table. There's 2020 right there automatically. The moment you click, you get 2020. Click on 2021 and you can see it changes to 2021. That's how you can filter out the data based on a given filter that you've selected. Now, after you have done all this, you want to remove the filter and go back to the original data. You just click on this clear filter and you are right back to your original data. So remember, we're going to insert and move to the right, and so the slicer clicked on it, selected the type of slicer that we wanted, and we clicked it. We wanted the one for the year. You click on the year and you get your data for that year. And if you remove the slicer, just click on the X there and it goes away and defaults to the original table. Tip number 7 is about inserting a calculated field. So when do we need a calculated field? To demonstrate that one, I have an example here. I have a table which has products, sales, and costs, and I'm interested in calculating the profit of each of these products. Now, to do this, I want to add another column, which is called a calculated field, and we shall use that column to calculate our profit for each of those products. Now, to do that, we need to click on the pivot table. The moment we do that, there are two tabs that appear up. One is for the design, and the other one is for analyzing different sets of data and using it for inserting a calculated field. So when we click here, we shall go to analyze. And when we click on analyze, we on top here see fields, items, and that. When you click there, you see the calculated field. Now, for higher versions of Excel, it is not hidden here. The calculated field is just on top here. It can be easily located. But if you don't have lower versions of Excel, you'll need to come here and click on calculated field. So when we click on the calculated field, it shows a dialog and says insert a calculated field. What is the name of the calculated field? We say our calculated field should be called profit because we're interested in finding the profit of each of those products. After here, it asks us to input the profit, the formula that we are going to use, and our formula is sales minus cost. So when you go down here, it shows you the different fields that are in a pivot table. We have product, we have sales, we have cost. So what we are going to use is sales. Click on sales. You can either double click on the sales and then it will automatically go up there into your formula, or you can click insert field like so, and it puts you right there. So we are saying sales, then click on minus, then the costs. Then insert the cost as well. So sales minus cost, we get our profit. So after we've got that, then we say okay. And when you do write that, you'll see that it's giving you a new column called sum of profit. Now, this is in my way. Let me remove it. And now if you say sales of 122,440 minus 51,000, you get 71,440 as your profit. So this way you can insert a calculated field, the field which is not original on the table, but is calculated using the fields in the table as you want. That is very important, and it can help you to look at different views of your pivot table. To do that, I'm going to place a filter right up here. And one thing that you have to be, by default, the filter is going to be placed up here. Ensure you have available two rows that do not have anything in them. But if you do have data in them, it will give you an error, and this one will not work. So I have my data here for continents and countries, and the values for the sales for each of those continents. I'm interested in adding a filter for the years. So now, right now, it's showing me the data for all the years, but I want to add a filter which will show me data for a particular year. Now, to do that, I'll click on the pivot table, and when I do that, my pivot table fields dialog shows up on my right. And if it does not show up, you can right click on your pivot table and say show field list. And when you do that, it shows up there. Now on top here, I have my fields where I can choose from. And right down here, I have filters. And here it tells me drag the field you want and place it where you want it to be. So I want a filter for the years. So I'll drag my years and put it under filter. The moment I do that, these on top here appear here, my filter appears here, and right now it is telling me it is this all, meaning that it is displaying all the data and it is not filtering out anything. So to filter out something, you need to click on the drop down there and select a particular year. So if I select 2019 and I click OK, now my data that is showing here is only for 2019. If I want 2020, click on 2020 and say, okay, now my data which is showing here is filtered to only show 2020. Now that is all and good. You may say, but I may want to show more than 1 year. I may want to show 2019 and 2020, or 2020 and 2021, depending on your choice. So what you have down here is select multiple items. So if I click on multiple items, there are some check boxes that appear on each of the years. So right now, 2020 is selected because I'm showing 2020. I selected 2020 on top there. Now, assuming I want to show 2 years, 2020, 2019 and 2020, I'll click on the years I want to show, and then I say, okay, now this data now filters out to those 2 years, and on top here, it shows that I'm showing you multiple items, meaning that it is showing you those 2 years, 2019 and 2020. I hope you get the idea of filtering 1 year and filtering more than 1 year. Those are the tips I have for you, additional to my previous video. If you have not seen it, there is a card up there you can use and go back and see my first tips. And also you can come back and watch this one as well. Thank you for taking your time to watch these tips. I hope they've been productive and help you to be more productive in your work. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. If at all you have not subscribed, please hit the subscription button right away. Have a great day.